maybe we'll need another one prior to the trip to Hong Kong. So just to kind of get started, we've got about 29 people who will be going on the trip. We've got 20 students, equal number, men and women, both graduate and undergraduate students, face-to-face students in Vermilion, online students as well, so a really interesting mix of people. In addition to the 20 students, there will be 4 faculty and staff attending, so I will be one of them. Anna Christensen, who is our marketing person, she'll be doing some blogging and photography, things like that. Devi Dijkstra, who I think most of you know, she's our associate dean. And then, of course, Dr. Yaki, who's the faculty member for the program. So in addition to the 20 of you and the 4 faculty staff, we also have 5 special guests who will be joining us for most of the program. And you'll get a chance to meet them as we move along. The key thing about the special guests is that they have contributed a significant amount of funding to make this trip affordable for you. So we definitely want to make sure and thank them. So our route for today is we will have Zung, who's our representative with the International Study Program, get us started. Then we'll have Soren from our own university Global Studies Office talking with us, and we're hoping that Dr. Yaki is going to be able to come in and answer some questions about the course. If not, we'll do our best and we'll follow up. If some of you need to leave early, we are taping this, so it will be available afterwards. So again, if you need to leave early, you'll be able to pick it up that way. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Zung.
Hi guys, can you hear me well?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Perfect. So welcome. So I will be talking about your upcoming trip to Hong Kong that will take place next month. I hope you guys are all excited for this experience, and so we can now start with the next slide. Before I will tell you more about the content of your program and the trip, I would like to introduce to you our company. So we are called International Study Programs. We are based in Prague. We're an education management company that coordinates and designs study trips for universities, for MBA students and executives, sometimes even undergraduate students as well. Mostly we work with American universities, but we do cooperate with a lot of schools from Australia, Asia, and Europe as well. My name is Zung. I'm the program manager, and I'm responsible for the academic content of your trip. And my colleague Eva is the travel manager. She's not here today, unfortunately, due to an emergency situation, but she's the travel manager that coordinates all the logistic stuff for the trip. So that means the hotel accommodation, bus transport, and the meals that are included in the trip. So Eva will be traveling with us as well. She is the new addition to our program, so she will be traveling as trainee. I just wanted to mention that all of her expenses will be paid by our company. So she will just help me to make sure that everything goes accordingly, help you guys in any ways she can, and she will be observing how a great program looks like, and I hope that this will be amazing. Okay, so this is about us, and now I would like to talk shortly about things for you guys to know before you go. So the weather in Hong Kong during May will be around 82 to 87 degrees on average during the day, and at evenings and nights around 72 to 75 degrees. So if you're not sure about that, I think it would be great to pack summer clothes, t-shirts, but also some light jacket or sweater in case there would be an occasional chilly day. Of course, alongside with the business casual stuff that you will be wearing during the company visit. Regarding the time difference, there's a 13-hour of time difference between Hong Kong and your place. So just to keep that in mind. Also, regarding the weather, just to keep in mind that the rainfall will be increasing, and May is also starting month of the typhoon season in Hong Kong. This may sound a bit scary, but I think that we are still safer in May. The worst month for typhoons in Hong Kong is in September. And Hong Kong is quite well equipped for these situations because they are used to this. And there's a warning system that would inform us in case there will be something happening. I think that May should be so fine, but just to be prepared. Okay, so that would be about the weather. And regarding the hotels, so the hotel where you'll be staying is called Holiday Inn Golden Mile Hotel. It's in the Chimchachui area, which is on the mainland part in Hong Kong. I will show you shortly after this slide. It's a central location. It's a great spot because it's in the business district. So you will have a lot of shops and restaurants around the hotel. The subway station is really close, and ATMs reachable everywhere. Basically, it's always part of every subway station, so you will not have problems with that. And regarding the hotel, we will have Wi-Fi included. There's a swimming pool, a fitness center, laundry service, and also there's breakfast included. Oh, Rachel, I just realized that I sent you an updated presentation and I added some slides that would be useful for the students. I'm not sure if...
I can possibly pull that up. Hold on 1 second.
Yeah. If it's not a problem, I think it would be better.
I'm just saving it to my desktop quick so that I can share it with our students who are
I
joining by
sent it
webinar.
to you like just an hour before our session, so don't worry about that.
Hold on 1 second. Almost there. There, does that work?
Thank you so much, Rachel. So here you have a picture of a socket that is all over Hong Kong. So I guess this is not the same as you are used to in the States. So the good thing is that the hotels are equipped with adapters everywhere, so you can use that. But this is also used by everywhere on the street. So the address is Nathan Road. I guess I can share with you the presentation as well if you want to look into that more later. And this is the map of Hong Kong. So I just wanted to, you will be staying in the Kowloon area, where you can see the Nathan Road street stated on the map. That is Chim Sha Tsui, and you will be staying there. The next slide. Regarding the safety, so Hong Kong is one of the safest places in the world. You don't have to really be worried. Even at night and evening, it's really safe to walk around the city. You will see people all the time at any hours of the day and night in Hong Kong. But of course, that doesn't mean that you should be carefree and just be aware of your belongings and the environment around you. The traffic is very condensed and there are a lot of people in Hong Kong, so just be prepared for that. What you could bring is the passport copy. It will be better if you have the passport in the safe box in the hotel. And a convenient thing would be a hotel card where you can have the address in case that you would go somewhere and you just show the taxi drivers the address on the card. It's also good to have it in Cantonese. So Hong Kong has 3 official languages. It's Cantonese, Mandarin, and English. So you shouldn't have problems with getting around. But sometimes there are a lot of actual people that have broken English or don't speak English really well. So just to be safe and just to keep it in case, it's better to always have the addresses where you want to go in Cantonese as well. But all of these things and information that I'm mentioning now will be also in the Student Zone webpage that I will talk about later. About getting cash, so there are ATMs everywhere. You can exchange money. The best way I would recommend is at the front desk in the hotel. You can also go to banks, okay? And the very important and significant part is the subsidies part. This is a card that you will be using while going through public transport. You can get it anywhere at the MTR subway station. You can pay, actually you don't have to use it only for public transport. They actually use it for things. 7-Eleven, you can pay for tickets and entrance to museums and galleries as well. If you are interested in what is included on the list, you can check their official website where they have it all stated. The currency in Hong Kong is called Hong Kong dollar. So one US dollar is about 7.8 Hong Kong dollars. And here you can see a table where, with price of things in Hong Kong. So meal can range from 60 Hong Kong dollars to 300. It really depends on what you want to get. If you go to school to have some local food, which I would highly recommend, part of the experience, you can pay not even 10 US dollars for a meal. But then if you choose to go to fancy places, you would pay more expensive meals. And for the transportation, we will have transportation covered for the whole schedule for the day. So we will be traveling around by bus. We will have a private bus for us. But once the schedule ends, once the program ends and you will have free time, you can travel either by the subway or you can travel by taxi as well. So this is like an appropriate price if you would like to get to the Hong Kong Island, which is a place where you have the financial center or the business center, where it is located on there. So it's actually a place where most of the expats live, so it's very lively, especially during night. So that would be around 150 Hong Kong dollars to get there from outside. And yeah, water, you can get it for 40, but I think you can find cheaper water as well. Regarding tipping, it's only expected in touristy areas. So the transportation system, so you can either get by subway. Here is the logo for the company that is responsible for the whole subway system. You can see this logo everywhere in Hong Kong. And here I also added a picture of how the taxis look in Hong Kong. The red one is the one that you can use to get anywhere. And then you have the blue and green ones, which are specific to certain areas in Hong Kong. So the blue one is for the new territories, and the green one is for the Lantau Island, which is also included in our optional cultural events. For mobile network, you can of course use roaming on your own SIM card, or you can get a new SIM card in Hong Kong. They are for 5 to 8 days, including the package. So they are really cheap, around, I think around $10 US. So it's very convenient if you want to get around Google Maps and stuff like that. And Wi-Fi is also available at all public places. So now talking more about the itinerary. So it includes academic events, group meals, and cultural activities. So we have 8 company visits in total, covering the key industries in Hong Kong. We will be visiting the companies that I think will be most interesting in order to get a deeper understanding of how Hong Kong business works. it will be shown in next slide, what kind of companies we will be visiting. And some of them will include a tour of facilities. So our goal was to include at least one company from the transport or logistics industry. So these companies will show us around their facilities and explain a bit more about what they do and stuff like that. So that will be very interesting for you. And the last one that we decided to include was a startup. Hong Kong is very interesting when speaking about the startup ecosystem. It's very dynamic, fast-paced. So we included one startup for your academic content as well. So I hope you will enjoy it. Regarding the group meals, we have welcome and farewell dinner. It's more of a formal way to begin and end the program. So we will have local set menu with some drinks included. Regarding lunches, so I think we have one group lunch included between the company visits, but for the rest of the days, we will either drop you at the food court or some areas where there are a lot of restaurants, give you about a 60-minute lunch break so you can get lunch on your own, and then we will pick you up by the bus and continue with the day. Yeah, and about cultural activities, we have some optional cultural events planned which could be purchased through our student zone eShop. And then we have a guided tour of Hong Kong, which takes about 4 hours, and a full day trip to Macau. Macau is a former Portuguese colony, so it will be very interesting to see the influence of the European architecture and culture in Asia, and that trip will also include our lunch for the whole group.
Say, Zhang, there's one thing I wanted to add about the cultural events, if I can. I know the original due date for them, so two things. I know the original due date for them was March 30th. Is there any way that we can allow that to be open for a little bit longer? Because I've had some students email me that they're still interested and they just need to sign up.
No problem at all. I will talk about this with Eva so she can open the eShop for you guys and you can purchase the cultural activities.
Perfect. And then the other thing that I wanted to announce to all students too, so President Abbott is going along to Hong Kong as well.
Yes.
He has agreed, so the foodie tour as one of the cultural activities, he has agreed for all students who want to participate that he will cover that cost. So I'll be emailing out an email to all of you to come, just asking if you are going to want to join or not, because we do need a head count for that. So hopefully if costs were an issue to you as well on the cultural events, perhaps by President Abbott agreeing to pay for one of them for you to participate, maybe then that might help your budget if we're considering signing up for or not signing up for the other two. So.
And I can guarantee you there will be all types of food, so it's a great experience to try out the food there. I've been there, and if there's something you don't like, you don't necessarily have to eat it, but you'll get a great variety of things to try.
And if you've already registered for the foodie tour, you'll get a refund for that.
So, yeah, that would be back credit. Thank you, that's all we wanted to mention about those events.
Perfect. So we will be waiting for the list of attendees for this foodie tour then during this month. I think we can talk about it more via emails later.
Yep, sounds good.
Okay, so now talking about the academic content, we have two companies confirmed so far. So the first one is GoGoChart, which is the startup, and then we have Generali, which is financial services conference company. And our targeted companies are Colliers, which is a real estate company. I think it will be really interesting for you to learn more about real estate in Hong Kong. It's very different from what you're probably used to in the States. So I'm confident this will be something that you will enjoy. Then we have a marketing company, CBDN, Cathay Pacific, which is one of the best airlines at the moment, and ABB, which is a manufacturing company focusing on electrical equipment. And then we will have the ISB Student Zone webpage, which is a website that you used for registering for this program. This will be very useful to save your mobile because it will be working even offline. I will be later sending you the leaflet with instruction of how to save it on your phone as on your home screen. And this student zone webpage will include all the necessary information for you to orientate in the program, to know what's going to happen, what's planned for the day or all the days of the 5th and 5th. And we will include information about the companies you will be visiting, of the speakers that will be talking to us, and also some emergency, including our phone number, our guide phone number as well, hotel information, and some recommendations for you while being in Hong Kong. So this is just for illustration. This is the page with emergency contacts. So here you can see my contact number. And also, another important person of this group will be our tour coordinator, which is our local partner. He's the cultural expert who will be with us the whole time. And, oh, it's actually here this way. She will be sharing with you her experience while living in Hong Kong. She's a local, so she will be happy to help you out with anything you will need to send around the state, if you need any recommendations or tips. She will be traveling with us the whole time, and during our time on the bus while going to companies, she will be telling you some history about or cultural things about Hong Kong. So that will be our tour coordinator. And then if you watch this, there are a lot of sections, including getting around, basically shopping and stuff like that. So this will be all useful for you while you're on the trip. Here you can see the hotel information, the address, the website, and the phone number of the hotel in case you would need it. So this is another screenshot of the webpage. The dress code. So we will add all the information to the itinerary, but just to keep in mind, it will be important because this is something that we actually deal with during every program, that during company visits, it is important to look professional. So we always encourage the students to dress business casual. This is something that will be part of the web page as well, so you can check it out if you're not sure what to wear. Everything will be included. And the last slide is the key success factors to make sure that the program will run successfully and smoothly. Just to keep open mind and some kind of cultural sensitivity. I'm not sure if any of you have ever been to Asia before, but it will probably be out of your comfort zone in many aspects. So just to keep that in mind, the speakers, some of the speakers might not have perfect English, so just be aware of that as well. And ask questions one at a time if you have any questions during the sessions at the companies. Speaking of asking questions, it will be very important to participate during these meetings. So the academic visits should be around 90 minutes long, including a presentation from the speaker on a particular topic, and it should be followed by a Q&A session for you guys in case you would be curious about something. And I encourage you to ask questions as many as you can. This is once in a lifetime experience, so it will be great to make the most out of it and learn as much as possible. The most important part of being on these trips, I think, is punctuality. So we will always announce on the bus what time we will be meeting the next day, what time are the visits, but this will all be included in the itinerary as well, so you can check it out on the Student Zone webpage. So just keep that in mind to be considerate towards the group, towards speakers, because they are taking the time to meet us and talk to us. So it's the smallest thing we can do is to be on time. And last thing is flexibility, because we may spend a lot, not a lot, some time on the bus because the traffic in Hong Kong is very condensed. It's quite crazy. So if it's during the traffic hours, we might be there for a bit longer than we would like to. Sometimes I think it's around 30, 45 minutes at most, but from my experience, it's always been 30 minutes, but just to know in case that we might be there for a bit longer. And sometimes we even have last-minute cancellation by the speakers. In those cases, we have to secure a last-minute alternative. So just to keep that in mind as well, that the companies that we have confirmed now may change during the program. I hope this will not occur during our program, but this happens as well. So just know that. And yeah, I think that's about it. Do you guys have any questions?
Brad or Aaron, if either of you have questions remotely, you can type them down into the chat as well, and we'll be happy to answer them. You guys are all prepared, ready to go.
Okay.
If we do think of anything else, we will be sure to reach out to you. I do know, like I said, we'll connect offline a little bit more about the culture events and keeping them open. But then I know we have an individual from our global and academic department as well here who will speak to the students shortly too. Yes.
I have a question, like when we travel during the itinerary from place to place, day to day, what should we take a backpack or something to carry things in? Or is it better just to have that in our pockets, whatever? Is there a recommendation?
So you can carry your bag as well. You can leave the stuff on the bus as well because it will be a private bus. So you can take whatever you want, and in case you want to leave it there and just go to the company visit with your phone or whatever, you can leave the rest on the bus.
Thank you.
And it's not a problem to carry a laptop to the companies as well in case you would like to write down notes and stuff like that.
Okay, thank you so much. If you want to stay with us, you're welcome to. If not, you are free to go. We're going to have the next individual, Soren Peterson from the Center for Academic and Global Engagement here at USD, speak just for a little bit as well. So thank you.
Thank you. It was great to see you all.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
Hi, Zoom.
I want to keep audio though for those online. Okay, hold on.
Well, as Rachel said, I'm Soren Peterson from the Center for Academic and Global Engagement, or CAGE, here on campus. I know a couple of you, and you've all seen my name in one way or another because of the application system. So it's going to be
This one? This one? Sarah? I'm just going to pull up my file as well. So it goes.
I have not been to Hong Kong myself, but I've seen the plan for what you're going to do, and I have to say that I'm a little bit jealous. So I'll be thinking about all of you while I'm back here. We'll just take a look at it. So while we're waiting for the presentation to come up, One of the first slides is an overview of what I'm going to be covering, and some of the things I'm going to sort of skip past or do an abbreviated version because you've just heard some of the stuff that I would normally cover, but there are some other things that are USD specific, so that's what I'll focus on. So, you can just put the next slide.
Click it over here. Okay, I'm just gonna bring it up this way. We'll go from there.
Okay. So I'll talk a little bit about the emergency protocol, about, very briefly about medical issues, mental health issues, harassment and assault, what else? Situational awareness, and then at the end, I'll talk about the insurance. So first of all, I want to talk about the emergency protocol. So this is specifically the University of South Dakota's emergency protocol for study abroad, or at least the abbreviated version for you. So the first question is, what constitutes a medical emergency? Anybody want to take any guesses?
Heart attack.
Heart attack would definitely be one.
Appendicitis.
Appendicitis.
Broken leg.
Broken leg, okay. Anybody over here at the table want to take a guess? You've already gotten
We've
some
seen
great
more than
hits.
you guys have.
Okay, so in more general terms, a medical emergency would be anything that threatens the life or limb of the individual if they don't receive medical treatment within about 24 hours or so. Okay, and obviously some things are more immediate.
Sorry, my technology is failing.
That's okay.
Keep it
I'm gonna roll with it.
Yeah.
I'm rolling with the fact that it snowed today, so. So some things are more immediate than others, okay? So things like this is my go-to, getting hit by a bus or a car. That's much more immediate than some kind of illness that then deteriorates or gets worse, okay? So, second question, can anybody tell me what the emergency phone number is, or numbers are, for Hong Kong? It's not necessarily 911. It's okay that none of you know the answer to that question, or you're too shy to volunteer a guess. Before you get on the plane to go to Hong Kong, though, you do want to find out what that number is, or numbers. Program those numbers into your phone, and also have them written down and carry them with you at all times. Okay? If you find yourself in the midst of an emergency and need to contact an ambulance, police, whatever, that's not the time to try to look up the number. Okay. All right, so at the top here we have kind of 5 general steps. Sometimes you'll follow these in order, other times you might prioritize one over another, but in general, the most important thing is to seek medical attention, whether that's calling emergency services, just going to the hospital, or whatever. Depending on the situation, you might need to seek the medical attention before telling anyone else. In other situations, you might be able to tell the faculty director or on-site staff, I need to seek medical attention. Okay. Maybe even, I need help getting to the hospital. Okay. So contacting your faculty director or other on-site staff would be also fairly high at the top of the list. Number 3 is to contact CISI, which is the insurance company that you will be covered by. That's the South Dakota Board of Regents group policy. So I will enroll you in that policy in the next few weeks. I'll talk a little bit more in detail about that when I get to the insurance part, but there could be some cases where one of the first things you need to do is to call CISI, because maybe you need them to pay the bill. In other cases, maybe it's just kind of after you sought medical treatment, then you're calling them to open a claim or a case. Okay? In most cases, then the next or the last two on here that you would want to contact would be USD. And because this is a faculty-led program and there are USD faculty on site, they're generally going to be the ones who are responsible for contacting me to say, such and such a student was just hospitalized or was just treated for X, Y, or Z. Okay? So you probably don't need to worry about trying to contact me. The last people on the list are your family. And the reason that we suggest that they be the last is because, why? They can't do anything about it, and if you get hit by a bus and you pick up the phone and say, Mom, I just got hit by a bus. After Mom tells you to go to the hospital and get medical attention, she's probably, or Dad, could be Dad too. Mom's gonna call USD, maybe me, and I don't wanna hear about this from your parents. Because when parents call and say, what are you going to do, or what are you doing, and we don't know about it yet, that does not reassure them. Okay? So help us to be in the best position, and also your parents or other loved ones to be, significant others, whatever, to be in the best position. Okay? If you, for some reason, did need to contact us or me, you can call the Cage main number during regular business hours, or after hours, weekends, holidays, whatever. You can reach me by calling public safety. Okay? And then they'll relay a message. Okay, so next we want to talk about harassment and assault. And we've had this slide as part of this presentation for a long time. So it's even more apropos now because of some more recent current events, news coverage. But we do want to remind you that even while you're in Hong Kong, and this may seem obvious because this is a USD faculty-led program, but even while you're in Hong Kong, you remain a USD student. And in the context of this slide, what that means is that you still benefit from the protections and policies that the university has in place. Okay? So if you find yourself the victim of any kind of harassment or assault, first of all, you want to remove yourself from the situation so that you feel safe, and you want to let somebody know about it so that we can support you. Keep in mind that university employees, with very few exceptions, are required to report this kind of incident to the Title IX coordinator. You may or may not want us to do that, so before you tell us about something, just keep that in mind if you don't want us to report it. Now, we do want you to have the support, so you can contact the reporting services like the Counseling Center. Okay. The first point here, keep in mind that there could be some cultural differences in terms of understanding what harassment and assault are. So there could be some things that you would just think fall in this category that people in other countries or other cultures don't even think twice about. They think it would be normal, for example. Nevertheless, even though the laws, cultural expectations, and whatnot may be different, again, you still have the right to feel safe. So again, seek out someone that you feel comfortable talking about so that you can get any kind of support you need. All right. Next, I want to talk briefly about mental health. So this slide, and especially the first point here, kind of are coming from the perspective of someone who already has some kind of mental health concern. I think it's important, though, to keep in mind that even if you don't have some kind of existing mental health concern, that just by virtue of the fact of going to a very different place, that can trigger some kind of response that you may not have have expected or that you don't experience here. That's perfectly normal. It's part of getting out of your comfort zone, going to another country, learning about a very different place. Okay. So, before you go to Hong Kong, think about what kinds of situations or issues might pose some challenges for you and how you might cope with those. Okay. And if you feel that it would be helpful, you can talk to the Student Counseling Center here before you go. You can also access them while you're in Hong Kong. And I do know that you're there for a very short time, but nevertheless, you can access them even while you're abroad. Okay, next slide. We also want you to be able to fully participate in the program, and so if you feel that you need any kind of accommodation to be able to participate, we encourage you to disclose that to Disability Services as early as possible so that reasonable and necessary accommodations can be made. Hong Kong is not the United States, so some accommodations that would be perfectly feasible here may not be in Hong Kong, okay? But we can try to make some kinds of accommodations. Okay. Next. So we've asked you all to go to a doctor and take care of a travel physical. That's related to this slide. So we want to make sure that you've had a chance to talk with a healthcare provider about going to a different country and any kind of additional precautions that you might need to take. Now, fortunately, Hong Kong is a fairly modern location. It's not like going to the Amazon rainforest like I've done, where you need to be concerned about all kinds of things, including being miles away from medical care. When I was a study abroad student as an undergraduate, there was at one point when I fell ill and the faculty directors, we were in a very remote area, and they saw a helicopter and they were thinking about trying to get me on the helicopter to get to a hospital. Okay. So fortunately in Hong Kong, you don't have to worry about any kinds of issues like that. We've also asked you to share any allergies. So we're passing that kind of information on to the faculty directors so that they're aware of any kind of situation in case you can't respond to a question. So things like, you find yourself at a hospital and one of the questions is maybe, are you allergic to anything including penicillin? You can't answer the question, but we have a faculty member there who has that information who can answer. Okay. So that's why we ask those kinds of things. And as June said, you want to learn some things in Cantonese. So she was talking about, I think, the addresses. But if you're taking any kind of medication, or if you have any kind of medical condition, it's not a bad idea to learn how to say that in Cantonese. Okay.
So for prescriptions, are there any special rules about taking prescriptions overseas into Hong Kong?
That's a great question. I don't know the answer to that question. It depends on what the medication is, but just in general, you want to make sure that you're taking any kind of medication, whether it's prescription or over-the-counter, in the original packaging. So I was talking with a student recently who reminded me that I tend to fall back to the example, this is not the time to put everything in a Ziploc bag. But she reminded me that she and other people who take medication regularly will distribute the different meds into a pillbox. Don't do that until you're already in Hong Kong. You want to go on the plane, go through customs and immigration with everything in the original packaging. Okay. Now, Linda, thank you. You've asked a very great question. If you are taking any kind of medication, particularly prescription that would be for things like ADHD, those are the kinds of things that tend to have restrictions. Okay. If that's the case, it would be a good idea to contact CISI, probably after I enroll you, and again, that will happen soon. CISI can advise you about whether something is restricted. There are some medications that are simply illegal in other countries. You don't want to find yourself in that kind of situation. Okay. Next slide. So related to this, again, this is not the time to stop taking any kind of medication that you're on regularly. Again, there's the restrictions there, keeping everything in the original containers. And then finally, make sure that you carry your medication in your carry-on luggage. So if you need to check a bag, so few people do this anymore, definitely don't put your medication in a check bag. Okay? All right. We can skip over this slide. So situational awareness. So you've already heard a little bit about safety, but I want to talk a little bit more about the situational awareness part of this. So you've heard that Hong Kong is a fairly safe place, okay? Nevertheless, it is a huge city with a lot of people, and it's very crowded. I forget how many millions of people are there, but it's many times larger than South Dakota in terms of population. Just by a little bit, right? So it's especially important to be aware of your surroundings. So you already do some of these things here, even though this is a fairly small place. So think about walking back from the bars on Main Street late at night. Hopefully, you're still kind of somewhat aware of your surroundings. You're looking out, perhaps subconsciously, you're looking out for danger, okay? You go into a parking lot here on campus or in other places, especially late at night. You're thinking about, is there someone out here? You're looking for anything that just looks kind of unsafe. You want to keep those same kinds of things in mind when you're in Hong Kong, and especially in crowded places like markets, tourist areas, and so on. This isn't explicitly stated here, but wherever you're going, particularly on your own, you want to have a plan on how you're going to get there, first of all. And once you've gotten there, if you don't feel safe, what's your plan B? Where are you going, and how are you going to get there? So plan A is, how are you getting, not just where you're going, but how are you getting back? Okay. Plan B, if I don't feel safe where I'm going, like you're going to a market and you're like, I gotta get out of here. Where's the place that you're going and how are you getting there? Okay. This is applicable not just to Hong Kong, but even back here at home, okay? And especially in the crowded areas, that's where we tend to find people like pickpockets. They're everywhere around the world. Safeguard your documents, like things like your passport, if you're taking your laptop or other technology with you. Make sure that you keep those safeguarded. So kind of valuables like family heirlooms and jewelry, nobody really cares, just leave those at home. Okay. So something that would ruin your experience in Hong Kong if it got lost or stolen, just don't take it with you. Okay. All right. So next I want to talk about STEP, which is the Smart Traveler Enrollment Program, and other U.S. government resources. So STEP is, most of you are probably too young to remember the old days when you registered with the U.S. Embassy in whatever country you were going to. It sounded very Big Brother-like, and so the U.S. government decided to make it sound a little less threatening, a little more friendly, and so they changed the name to Smart Traveler Enrollment Program. So they're de-emphasizing the registration part and emphasizing the enrollment part. What you're doing is you're telling the U.S. Department of State, and in particular the U.S. consular offices, whether it's an embassy or a consulate, in the country that you're going to, who you are, when you're going to be there, and where you're going to be, as well as how to contact you. So in the unlikely event that there needed to be, in perhaps the most extreme of situations, an evacuation. So you can think about things like the Arab Spring and so on, but also just if you go missing, it's good for there to be an official record that you were there. Okay. So the STEP enrollment helps the U.S. consular officials in Hong Kong to know that you're there, and in more general terms, how many US citizens are there. And if you're a citizen of another country, then you would want to contact the embassy of your country to see what kind of registration or enrollment that they have. So you can get to STEP by going to studentsabroad.state.gov. You can also find general information about Hong Kong and international travel there, and other information not just for students, but also for, there's information specifically for women, for LGBTQ, and a few other different groups. The other link there is for the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, specifically the Traveler's Health, so it's cdc.gov/travel. And regardless of where you're going, so right now you're planning to go to Hong Kong, but in the future you may be planning other international travel. So both of these websites will be useful for you in any future travel that you do as well. But the CDC Traveler's Health website will tell you about all kinds of health concerns and precautions that you should take into account. So there's some general things that would apply to any country that you're traveling to. But again, if you were traveling to the Amazon, they would be talking about things like yellow fever, malaria, and so on. So lots of great advice. And the CDC Traveler's Health is useful even though it's sort of a supplement to the information that you could get from going to the doctor as part of the travel physical that we require. Okay, move on to the next slide. So then finally I want to talk about the CISI insurance. You can watch, this is a short video that provides an overview, you can watch it later. Okay, so this is a comprehensive international insurance policy. Again, it's a South Dakota Board of Regents group policy through CISI. We will enroll you in the policy, and it's the premium for it is $36.90, which is part of the user charge that we've applied to your account. Okay, so you've already paid for this. This is required of all students and all USD faculty and staff who are traveling abroad, whether it's a study abroad program like this or going to an international conference or whatever, as long as there's some kind of university affiliation or sponsorship. Once I've enrolled you, you'll get an email from CISI and also from me saying that you've been enrolled. At that point, you'll then be able to go to mycisi.com and access the portal. So what will you find on the portal? You'll find information about the policy, including the benefits. There's a provider directory, so you can search for doctors, hospitals, specialists, and so on. You can also access the claim form there. And they also have personal security assistance information. So this is provided by a security intelligence company. There's probably some interesting information about Hong Kong. They tend to update this stuff pretty regularly and pretty quickly. So there's, for example, a case a few years ago where there was a threat to the president of Ecuador. And one of the first places I found out about it was through the same security intelligence company that provides the information through the CISI portal. So it's very up to date in real time. Okay, it's important to keep in mind that there's a huge difference between this insurance through CISI and the health insurance that you're used to here. So here when you go to the doctor, in most cases, you don't need to think about filing a claim because the doctor or hospital or healthcare provider does that for you, okay? They'll typically also ask you for your insurance card. Or I went to the doctor the other day for my annual exam, and the first question was, is your insurance the same? Okay, so they're always wanting to pay attention to that so they know how much to charge you. And the other part of that is that they're filing the claim on your behalf. In contrast with CISI, nobody's going to file a claim for you. You will have to do that yourself. Although, you can ask someone to do it on your behalf. So if you're hospitalized and you're not able to make that call yourself, you can have a family member, you can have our office, you can have a faculty member do that for you, okay? So, in general, you will file a claim, and that will be a request for reimbursement. Now, I alluded to this a little bit earlier on the emergency protocol slide. When you're seeking medical treatment, CISI recommends that if the cost of that treatment is going to be about $40 or less, that you pay for it out of pocket and then file a claim with a request for reimbursement. If it's going to be over $40, and these are general guidelines provided by CISI, it's going to be over about $40, then they would prefer to make the payment directly to the provider on your behalf. So for example, you're being admitted to the hospital, you find out that the charge is going to be $1,000 or whatever. That's the time when you want to show your CISI card to someone at the hospital, like the billing person or the admissions officer. And you don't say, this is my insurance card. Instead what you say, because they won't recognize it, it will be sort of meaningless to them. Instead what CISI recommends you do is you show them the card and say, this is the company that's paying my bill, because that's something that they're likely to understand. Okay. So whether this means that the hospital, for example, is calling CISI, or whether you're calling CISI and then having them talk to the admissions or billing person, it doesn't really matter. But CISI would generally like to try to arrange to make that payment directly, if it's over about $40. Okay. And then finally, we will enroll you for the official program dates. If you want to extend your stay, you can extend your CISI coverage beyond the program dates at your own expense. Also, if you're going to be traveling to another location, so for example, if you're going to go from Hong Kong to Beijing or to somewhere in Thailand or something like that before coming back, you want to let CISI know about that as well. Okay? I've talked mostly about the medical benefits and things like that, but they're also really good about evacuation information. So going back to the Arab Spring that I mentioned, after that, there were still some issues in North Africa. And so I was at a university that had an Arabic flagship institute program, and we had half a dozen students or so in Alexandria, Egypt, and things kind of exploded there. And I remember waking up at 6 a.m. and one of the first messages that I saw on my phone was a message from CISI saying, you have 6 covered individuals in Alexandria, and here's what we are prepared to do to evacuate them. And in fact, that day we moved them to Morocco so that they could finish the program. Okay. Yes?
We do have 1 or 2 people who are arriving early.
Okay.
Do they work with you then to get their coverage extended for that?
Yes. So if you are going to Hong Kong early, let me know, and then when I do the enrollment, I can actually make the start date reflect the actual travel dates. And I said you can extend the coverage at your own expense. You as a student have one enrollment option, which is on a monthly basis. You're going to be in Hong Kong for how long?
10 days.
A lot less, yeah, a lot less than a month. So you can extend the coverage, but you've already paid for up to a month. Okay. All right. Any other questions?
So I will mention that on the Student Zone website, the ECC card, ECC stands for Emergency Contact Information. And the number in Hong Kong is 999, so now we know that.
I'm not surprised because that's the UK emergency
Is it?
services number.
Okay. So we can work with Zoom to see if maybe we can add some of this information to the Student Zone ECC page.
Sure.
That way you're not having lots of different things that you're trying to keep track of in lots of different places.
Yep.
So that's something offline we can
Perfect.
see if we can figure that out.
All right, any other questions?
My overall message for you as students is as you continue, as we get closer, I mean, there's less than 40 days, just continue to watch your emails as you have been for continued updates or additional step-by-step items that you may need to do or not do. So